A warm namaste to our readers from India. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to readers from other parts of the world. Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of the Author Show. This show is hosted by Pioneer Book Lovers Club. A short background on the club. It was set up as a community book club in Gurgaon in 2020 with the objective of promoting reading and writing of literature. Along the way, we also started inviting authors to interact with our members through this author show. Our author for the evening is Vardhan Dharkar. And welcome to the show, Vardhan. We will be recording this event and will also share the recording on YouTube and other social media handles. Now, an introduction to the moderators. Our moderator for the event today is Vardhan Dharkar. Vardhan is a former corporate finance honcho and now a passionate blogger. I am Sanjay Chandra, a retired bureaucrat, a former corporate executive, and now a published author. So over to you, Vardhan, to take this event forward.
Thank you, Sanjay, for a warm introduction, and welcome, Vardhan, to our show. Let me give a brief introduction to Shri Chandravardhan Bomadevra. He writes under the pen name Vardhan, something which is very similar to my name, Vardhan. His book Viman Transcripts is considered to be one of the top 5 thrillers of 2021. He has published 5 thrillers so far. His books, including he writes in 2 different genres, fantasy and thrillers, based on Indian mythology, and thrillers based on societal issues such as vigilantism, corruption, spurious medicines, etc. Maybe I think his background as a lawyer helps him over there. That's my guess. Maybe we will probe it further. Vardhan's 5 books includes Viman's Transcripts, Fear of God, Agniputra, his latest Song of Trinity, and Shatru. He started his career as a constitutional lawyer, and somewhere in between he switched and transitioned to a regulatory compliance services, and is now executive director of one of the top 4 big professional firms globally, leading global regulatory compliance services. Hailing from West Godavari district, he is born and brought up in Chennai, spent some time in Mumbai, and now for last 18 years or so, he is based out of Gurgaon. So he has a very good understanding of India, of South, West, and North. He loves reading, sports, movies, music, mountains, and ocean. His wife is an artist and candle maker, and maybe I think he's one of the most sought after critic. His son is a budding lawyer, movie and theater actor, and his daughter, settled abroad, is a amateur gamer and artist. His 4 canny children live with him in Gurgaon. Welcome, Vardhan. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the introduction. Obliged. I'm very happy to be here. Very glad to be on the show. And yeah.
Thank you. So maybe we will start off by asking you, our readers would actually like to know more about you, besides what I have very briefly explained, in terms of your journey as an author, your evolution as an author, your motivations, your inspirations, etc. Maybe you can share some, throw some light on that.
Sure, of course. And before that, Mr. Vardhan, so I had just put up the poster of this particular show that Sanjay had shared with me on Facebook, and some of my colleagues from my firm, some of the partners from my firm immediately reached out to me and said, "Hey, how do you know him? How do you know Vardhan? We know him well from our earlier days when we used to interact with him and we used to provide services to him." So immediately there was this recognition. So I just thought I should kind of mention it before we start.
Thank you.
I was an author first, and then I was a lawyer, so to speak. So I was greatly inspired by one of the greatest, contemporary authors of our times. He's no longer with us, but Robert Ludlum was somebody who inspired me, and his was the first real serious book thriller that I had picked up to read when I was about 12, 13 years old. And what he had written and the Mattery Circle really, kind of implanted itself into my mind. And uh, I was living inside the book. I was living in the movie in my head. That was the kind of feeling I had when I had finished the book. And I thought that this is something that I'd like to pursue. I mean, I revere him and I, kind of celebrate him, but he kind of woke the muse in me, so to speak. I started writing pretty early. I started writing when I was about, same age, on 12, 13. And, started with poetry, uh, typically, and then moved into short stories and moved into a full-fledged novel by the time I was 14. But I never got to complete it because I just did not have the tools or the, wherewithal for that at that point of time. And we didn't have laptops when I was a kid. So, it was all on a huge notebook that I had written to the extent that I could. Later on, much later, I somehow found that book, and after my first book was published, in fact, I found that book. I read through the book, and then I rewrote that story again. It's called Agniputra. That's my second book. So the book that I wrote first when I was 14 years old, it became the second book that I published in 2016, I think, through one of the biggest publishers of our times, Bloomsbury. They were happy to publish my book. So I started writing pretty early, and it never struck me that I should become a published writer. Writing was something that I love to do. I mean, I am a sports person otherwise, or at least I used to be. I love shuttle badminton, cricket, tennis. I play. I play table tennis. So there are a lot of things that I used to play. And other than these passions, my other passion and the overriding passion was always writing. So writing somehow, kind of gave a release. It kind of opened me up. And when I start writing, I get lost. Honestly speaking, I'm completely in a different world and really enjoy it now. So that's how my writing journey began. My first book is called Shatru, and it was a struggle to publish that book. I had written it, and it took me almost close to 10 years from the time I had written it to actually publish the book, and that too, it was really a uphill task. Because it was an epic fantasy, so to speak. Fantasy has various subgenres. You have urban fantasy, you have young adult fantasy, you have epic fantasy, etc. and so forth. So typically this is what is known as an epic fantasy. It means you create universes, you create worlds, etc. and so forth. And nobody was interested in publishing an epic fantasy from a completely unknown writer. The readership for that apparently is not much. At least that was the thing in India. So finally somebody took a risk on me and published it, and it came out to be. And then my second book was Agniputra, and Agniputra did well. It was a multi-genre book. It was instigated, by a single verse in the Rig Veda, in the Ajur Veda. Though this book started off when I was 14, it was completely rigid. There was one victory incantation, one line in the Yajurveda, which excited me so much in terms of what it could had potential for, that I wrote a book on it, which fused Vedic knowledge with quantum physics and stuff like that. It was a really exciting journey, and it was a multi-genre book. It's got law in it, it's got quantum physics, it's got mythology, it's got action, it's got everything. So it was well received. It was well received at that point of time. Excellent reviews, and from bloggers, influencers, etc. My third book came about for a very different reason. In fact, we were discussing among friends as to what should be the topic for my next book, and we were so what do you say, frustrated by the apathy in the road conditions in the National Capital Region, because people just don't, or never used to, obey the rules, the traffic rules in Delhi NCR area. Now it's a different story. Now, because of the cameras and heavy fines, people have no choice but to comply. But in earlier days, they didn't care, and somehow, to me, that is basically because of a lack of enforcement. And that lack of enforcement, then if you work backwards, it went to they could pressurize cops, whether it was a pecuniary pressure, whether money pressure, or whether it was influence pressure, or whether it was simply to outlast them in an argument, etc. and so forth. So it was, nobody obeyed the law. The common man had no respect for the law. Forget about the rich and the famous. And the common man had no love in the no respect for the law, because he knew that everybody was flouting it. So I started thinking of an alternate scenario where the corruption would get to an extent where vigilantism is the only answer. So fear of God has a character in it, or is based on a character who is a vigilante in a sense. He is not opposed to the system. He is not opposed to the establishment. Rather, he wants everybody to obey the law, right? And for those who don't obey the law, he renders a very extreme and violent judgment. That's his modus operandi. So he says that you have to. So his motto, in fact, is that you have to obey the law to be protected by it. If you don't obey the law, you have to surrender to it. Now, if you think you are above the law, then there's only fear of God. And he says, he names himself fear of God. And therefore renders and puts the fear of God in people who don't comply with the law. So it's a very different kind of approach to, enforcement of law. And and well received, and it's going to be made into a movie soon, etc. and so forth. And it was a fun journey for me. I mean, a lot of research that I had to do, but it was excellent. So I moved away from all that, negative matter, which is corruption and vigilantism, etc., for the Vimana transcript, which is my fourth book. It's based on, it's a thriller. Again, I only write thriller. Either it's a fantasy thriller or a social thriller. So this is a thriller based on Indian temples, or surrounding or around Indian temples, ancient Indian temples, like the Shiva temple in Ellora, cave number 16, and the Padmanabha Swami temple, and a couple of other temples. So I set up a kind of an adventure around it, a kind of a mystery that needs to be solved around it to save the world. And then I put up a very unlikely hero who is a treasure hunter who has to solve a series of puzzles, or so to identify a solution to save the world. So that was the Vimana transcript, my fourth book. Very well received. It's probably one of the of all my books, it's probably doing the best now. I've received mails and stuff, the mails and from various fans, from various readers, etc. and so forth, that they really love the work, and the diversity of the characters in that were fantastic. Very happy with that book. Now my fifth book is called The Song of the Trinity. And again, it's an epic fantasy. And Shatru, which is my first book, is a prequel to this. So the main story of that starts in this book. And it's just come out into the market in May, middle of May. It's just out. After all the usual hiccups when you are releasing a book, it's finally out in the market on Amazon and some major bookstores.
Sanjay is displaying it.
Yeah. So So that's the and again it's based on like and usually as my books go, and then somebody else also was saying this to me some time ago that all my books are about the end of the world and how it is finally saved at the nick of time. So yeah, I can't seem to write anything else. So this is also about the end of the universe in this and the advent of the king of Kali Yuga, and how there is a very uneven battle between him and a bunch of people who are trying to save life itself. So that's the song of the Trinity. So that's my journey as an author, and uh, uh, to be very honest, my first book took 10 years, and my fourth book took 2 days from the time that I had finished it for the publisher to publish it. And my fifth book, I was paid to write. So I think that is also a good graph to have.
Yes.
So I was commissioned to get Trinity Song of the Trinity published. So that is a good graph to have. I think it's a very satisfying feeling for an author to see that kind of a graph happening. So
yes,
yeah, that's good.
Very interesting and very inspiring journey that you had. One question that comes to my mind is that your background as a legal professional, does it help you in your writing journey or your particularly the genres that you have selected?
So like I said, when I opened up last time, I said I was an author first and then a lawyer.
Yes.
So law came in only to delay my growth as an author, not the other way around. That's number one. Number two, yes, definitely it helps. I mean, all jokes apart, law is a discipline, and you need to, and if you have that discipline, if you have kind of understood and practiced that discipline, that helps you a lot in the way in which you're structuring your stories and structuring your approach to everything you do. Law is about strategy. At the end of the day, if you are a lawyer in a courtroom or you're a lawyer in a boardroom, I have been both. So in both these cases, you have to have a strategy in place before you do anything, and everything that you do is about implementing the strategy. So even for writing, that helps. That approach helps in strategizing on what needs to be done, and then going about achieving that strategy. So law to that extent helped me a lot in terms of the way I have structured my books and the way I've structured my research and the way I've structured my growth as an author. Yeah.
Okay, that's really good, and that's what I also thought that it would have helped you. You talked about your journey as an author, and you were very pleased that the publisher to write your latest book. I just wanted to understand from you what is the current scenario in India generally that we are looking at, and do you think that writing can be a well-paying profession, particularly in English language in India?
Yes, it can be. I mean, yes and no, which is why I first shook my head in the negative and then I said yes. So it is no and yes, in fact. Uh, if you want to start writing to make it a money spinning enterprise, then you're wrong. You can't do that. Writing has to be a passion. And I think every writer that you've seen who's really grown into a phenomenon world across is a writer who wrote because he was passionate about writing. So the passion comes first, and the money becomes a byproduct. That's point number one. Point number two is, can you make money in India writing? There are several authors in this country whom we have not even heard of, who've published 40, 50, 60 books, maybe in the vernacular, maybe in English, whose books have a certain audience and who sell, right? So they make a moderate living out of writing, right? And there are authors that we know who have, with a single book, become superstars of the Indian writing community.
Yes.
And yes, they don't have to work; they can make money. So then you have, therefore, two different kinds of authors that I've just told you about. The ones which are consistent and keep on writing and make a decent amount of living, and then there are those who become superstars. Now, the question is, everybody wants to become a superstar. Nobody wants to become, a 30, 40 book writer whom nobody knows about. So, if you want to become a superstar in India, uh, uh, unlike in the West, and I'm very clear about it, unlike in the West, you will have to have very deep pockets. And I'll give you an example. Back in 1970s, when Stephen King wrote Carrie, his all-time great horror film, a book which was made into movies several times. When he wrote that, he was a school teacher, and he had an old car that he was using, and he did not even have the money to change the tires for the car. He was running it as it is. And he wrote Carrie, and the publisher bought the book from him, and overnight he became a millionaire because the money that the publisher gave was so much. He became a millionaire. Today he was a poor teacher. Tomorrow morning he was picking up a brand new car, right? And that is how it is the world over. World over, when an author writes a great book and the publisher is convinced, the publisher pays the author upfront. Right? And then, because the publisher has to publish the book, and because the publisher has already paid the author, he has to invest money to sell the book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In India, even if you go to a large publishing house, they pay you a pittance. Yes. Even if they want to pay you some amount of money. Generally, in today's scenario, you pay the publishing house money to publish. Right? Now look at the background. Look at what's going to happen as a result of this. Once you pay the publisher to publish your book, what is the commitment of the publisher? Zero. He's already got his money. The money is going to cover the cost of the press, the paper, and his efforts. So he's recovered his money. And then the only thing left for him to do is to, whether the book sells or not, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with self-publishing. But in the Indian scenario, this situation has to change if authors have to make a living out of writing books.
Okay. A very clear, I think, roadmap or clear picture you have depicted of the scene in India.
It's all trial and error. It's all the stuff that I have gone through as an author, and I suffered. And it is my responsibility to tell everybody, the younger authors or the authors who are trying, don't be under the misconception that this is going to be a cakewalk. It's not. Yes. You'll have to put in a lot of efforts marketing your book, and you'll have to put in a lot of efforts in qualitatively. See, an Indian author is the basic problem with an Indian author is that he is not competing with other Indian authors. He is competing with international authors. His readers are also readers of Robert Ludlum. They're readers of Lee Child. They're readers of XYZ, So those guys, you have to be as good as them for you to sell in the same market that they are selling in. And therefore, qualitatively, an Indian author has to improve his lot. And the moment he improves his lot, then the Indian reader will be able to evaluate properly.
Maybe at this juncture, I would request you to read an excerpt from your latest book.
Sure. There's one particular area, one thing that I like to read. Just give me a minute. So there is this one particular situation where one of the heroes of the book has been captured. And this has happened 6,500 years ago in the Kurukshetra battle. This is a kind of the first chapter, and after this, everything goes into the present day. And this is only this one chapter in the book is in first person. Everything else is in third person. So, so this is the paragraph I'd like to read very quickly. The idiots escorting me made such a din that I could slay them with the straps of my horse's harness within the time it took to bat an eyelid. But then what? Where would I go? What would I do? Whom would I turn to? All the people who mattered were gone, dead, some cremated to set their souls free, others devoured by scavenging beasts, and yet others so badly decayed and rotted by chemically charged weapons that even the vultures and the crows gave them a wild birth. Dead kings and mages, commanders and generals, ordinary foot soldiers, all of them are rendered equal with the land they staked to claimed them. I did not fight for kingdoms. I have no use for them. I fought for a simple principle of inheritance. The first son of the first son ascends the throne, especially if his people loved him like they loved my liege. The usurpers have no claim to the throne, morally or legally, yet the world painted a picture as though they were wrong. I do not agree, nor will I ever agree. Not that it matters to anyone anymore. Apparently, truth has triumphed over falsehood and good over evil. If you ask me, it's a jape, nothing more than a mockery of fair play and justice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said and well read.
Thank you.
Very briefly, our readers would like to know from you your future plans, maybe next 2 years. What can we expect from you?
Well, I have currently I have about I have the next part ready for so for the Song of the Trinity is a series. As of now, I have thought about it as being 3 books, out of which the first is already there. This is the second one. Maybe 2 more will come in. The third and the fourth, of which the fourth is ready. Third is ready as of now. So probably that will come up next year. I have another 3 manuscripts that are 2 of them are progressing and 1 is complete. And that one that is complete is again a social thriller based on spurious medicines. Hopefully that should also be published in the next year or the year after, or whenever it is. And there's a political thriller that I'm writing, which is also probably going to be published. So I have my idea, my head is abounding with ideas, and I have started writing these books. And I look at myself as a long-term writer and a long-term author. I'm not here for the the 1 or 2 books kind. I've already done 5 books so far, and I'm looking at creating a few more stories. As long as I'm not boring to my audience, and as long as I am relevant in terms of what is being said and what needs to be said. I think yeah, I'll be there.
Thank you. All of us will be looking forward to the books coming from your name, and all of that. I am very sure and confident that they will be very interesting. At this juncture, let me hand over the mic to Shri Sanjay ji. And Sanjay.
Thank you, Mr. Vardhan, and pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Vardhan. Vardhan, would you like to ask a few, maybe 3 or 4 rapid fire questions?
Yeah, I would love to. So
please
if
go
we
ahead.
have a couple of minutes. Okay, so let's start the rapid fire round. Sure. Question number 1: Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot?
Hercule Poirot.
Okay. If you were to spend one day as somebody else, who would that person would be?
Jack Reacher.
Okay, and
Jack
why?
Reacher is Reacher. Well, I think he is one of the most freest of people I've ever known. He's free of everything. Only thing that Jack Reacher owns is a toothbrush. So So it's it should be liberating to be somebody like that.
So since you have lived in multiple parts of India, Chennai's idli, Mumbai's vada pav, or Chandni Chowk's aloo paratha?
First is Chennai Idli. I come from there. Between the aloo paratha and the vada pav, I think I'll go for the aloo paratha. Aloo paratha.
Okay.
And vada pav, of course, is something that I really love every time I go to Bangalore. It's nothing less. It's just a third among equals. That's all.
Okay. So if you have to make one change in yourself, what will that be?
I'll grow hair. Otherwise, I'm happy as exactly everything the way it is. I'll grow hair.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
So if you were to choose,
Sorry?
if you could
I
have a
think
conversation with one of your character, which character that would be and why?
so I'd love to have a conversation with Shatru.
Sorry?
I'd like to have a conversation either with Shatru or with there is a character called Surya Prasad Surya in the book called Agniputra. The second part of Agniputra, which also I have going to come out with, I've completed the manuscript. Surya Prasad Surya comes in. He's a cripple, but he's an extraordinary cripple. And if I had a chance, I would definitely like to meet him and talk to him.
So great, congratulations! You have won the rapid fire round. Back to you, Sanjay.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, Vardhan, for such a nice and scintillating moderation of the episode. We all enjoyed it. We loved it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Vardhan, for being with us on this episode today. It was really wonderful, scintillating, like you always are. And we hope that maybe someday in future we will have you once again with us.
I'd love to. I'd love to anytime. Thanks so much, Sanjay, for the offer. It was very interesting talking and very nice conversing with you as well as Vardhan, Mr. Vardhan, and yeah, I really enjoyed the session. I really enjoyed the rapid fire questions. I think one of them was very tough to answer, the one about the food, but otherwise, I think it was it was a,
it was easy.
It was a really good session. Yeah.
So thank you, readers, for joining this evening. Please do read Vardhan's Song of the Trinity, his latest book, and share your reviews. Reviews are very important for an author. And that's it from us at Pioneer Book Lovers Club. Look out for notification on the Facebook page of the club about the next episode of Author Show. Goodbye. Stay safe. Have a great Sunday evening. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.